Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Brett Wagner and Eric Fritzke with Keller Williams Preferred Real Estate. Welcome to the program, Eric and Brett.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, today we're going to talk about property management, and Brett, I know that is your area of expertise, so let's get started with a little bit of background on what the Trinity team focuses on with property management, and give us a little bit of an overview, and then we can get into things that people should consider when choosing a property management firm.
Sounds great. So Trinity team is a medium-sized property management company. We manage approximately 80 residential properties and 11 commercial properties consisting of a little over 70 tenants in the commercial. I think what sets us aside from other management companies is being a personable company. We really try and communicate verbally with tenants and landlords a lot more than just the electronic and old mail fashion.
And in the sense of communication, when would that come up? What kind of scenarios would that be applied to?
Anywhere from maintenance requests to putting a property on the market. We'll be speaking with the owners about, what they want to lease their property for. Once incoming prospective tenants come in, discuss their backgrounds, credit, kind of give them a visual of what we saw in the meeting. Tenant-wise, same thing. They can call in, or they can do it electronically as well. But we do have that touch with tenants where anything major emergency, they can call into us directly. So the homeowner's home is properly taken care of.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think that communication styles is so critical, and to have multiple options is helpful, because I know for me, if there's a problem that I need to have solved, I want it solved now. I don't want to send an email and hope that someone gets it the day after tomorrow. So whether it's a phone number that I know someone's going to be at, or an instant chat on a website, or something to where you've got that good communication, and I think that's a really strong feature. So from the other point that you were making, for the property owner, what kind of tasks or responsibilities are you alleviating for them with your management? Let's talk about some of the traditional things, because I know you mentioned a few of them, but let's go a little bit deeper on, if someone is considering a property management firm for the first time, what are some things they should consider? And then we could talk about a seasoned property owner. What are some of the things that they would then go a little bit deeper on and need to have managed as well?
Sure. So I think to start from the beginning, we try and call ourselves a soup to nuts property management company. So we literally come in, meet with the owner, give them our rent comps of what we believe their property's worth. From there, we put the property on the market. We meet with all prospective tenants. Once a good tenant is selected, we call the owner, sit down with them, discuss all options. From there, we collect rents, pay all their maintenance bills. We have some owners we pay property taxes for. So, we kind of have a list of things that we can do for them. A lot of people want to keep that in-house, so you will have the majority of the property owners paying their own property taxes, so to speak. But that is something we offer. We handle all incoming maintenance requests. The owner is never called by a tenant. They are only called by us. So we have that third-party scenario where, we're liable for the owner, so to speak.
I think as a non-seasoned person in property management, I am picking up on some things that if I were to own a property that I would not want to do myself. right? I mean, paying property taxes, that's a couple times a year, easy, no problem. It's nice you offer it. But to me, the not knowing of what to put the property on the rent market for would be huge. So having those rent comps and that meeting with the laying out a strategy would be pretty huge. Do you find some people that just are clueless and not knowing where to go, and they really appreciate that guidance, and to see what some real-time rents are, it really helps to alleviate their concern of, am I getting the right price? Am I, putting it on the market too high, and then I'm getting no responses, or too low, and I rented it right away, and you're going, ooh, I could have gotten more.
Most definitely, we see that a lot on both ends of the spectrum as well. We've seen people that have a portfolio of 6 properties, and we come in and we can pay for our services plus some by getting them up at the proper rental rate. Where just had a scenario like that 2 weeks ago, where a lady had her property on the market for too much. It sat for 6 weeks. And in that 6 weeks, if she would have went at the proper rate, she would be way ahead of the game, where we got her at the proper rate and had it rented out within a 2-week period. So we definitely see both ends of the spectrum on that.
Yeah, the thing in that scenario that I see is kind of like the business phrase called opportunity cost. If you're doing one thing, that keeps you from doing another thing. Or if your property's on the market for 6 weeks, you're paying the underlying mortgage yourself, and there's no incoming rent, and that's, one whole month could have, really closed that gap. And time is money, as they say, and it really is the case in that scenario, right? I mean, I think that's a big piece that people need to keep in mind is, kind of the velocity of money or momentum to keep in mind is, kind of measure twice, cut once. So pick that property management firm, pick that rent comp, get it on the market the best way, and then get it in and move on. And then at that point, that's kind of a big relief off of people's mind.
Most definitely. And I think that's where we're a huge value add.
And the next thing that jumps out at me is meetings with the possible tenants. So I would suspect that there's quite a few horror stories that you've heard over the years of, property owners that just get bogged down in the detail of, finding a tenant, and then let's schedule up a time, and that doesn't work for this, and let's do it by phone or not, or where do I want to meet them, and then what do I say, and how do I tell if they're telling the truth? I mean, all of these things, right? What are some of those pressures and problems that you're alleviating for someone in meeting with possible tenants? And then is the next step you're presenting to them the top ones, and then they do have some weigh in at that point?
Correct. So by our contract, we have to give or put all reasonable offers in front of the owners. Sometimes they're ridiculous offers, but we do put every offer in front of the owners. Before putting that offer in front of them, though, we do a detailed background and credit and eviction and identity check on each tenant. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen from owner-managed properties to us is, a lot of times owners will go on feel. Well, Unfortunately, on that feel, if the tenant loses their job and you didn't do a proper credit check on them, you have no recourse because they have no credit to stand on. We see that frequently. Another thing we see with owner-managed properties is owners run out of time. A lot of them work full-time jobs, and they don't get by the properties. We do a quarterly walkthrough that we always have a touch on the property. I've had owners in our portfolio that have to MapQuest to their own properties because they've been there so little, and that's a true statement. And when that happens, your investment can really go down to the dumps, and we've seen it happen multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, even the things like the drive-bys, right? Maybe you're not walking in every room of the house, but even just coming by the outside could lend some insights into how the property is being cared for. Is there anything that maybe you guys as the property managers have seen when you're doing that for the owner, that maybe that was an indication you brought to their attention and then it saved or alleviated some issue potentially?
Definitely. We've had a scenario where a drive-by, we actually saw that the windows were fogged up in the house and went in and the hot water heater had blown, and the tenants were on vacation. So unfortunately at that point the home had 6 inches of water in the basement, but it could have ended up with 3 or 4 feet. So definitely, and that's another thing that it's a good point that you bring up. I'm out in the field pretty much, and I pretty much run the management side. And when I'm by a property, I definitely will take a drive-by, and even as little as looking at trash cans that are out too long for HOA fines. That just cuts down on everybody's anger, so to speak. An owner doesn't like getting a letter in the mail, getting a $25 phone for trash cans left out. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
And that's interesting you bring that up, because it's like a bank fee, like maybe it's an overdraft or just some oversight, but these little teeny fees just add up, and it would be so easy to prevent it. It's not a massive thing, but if you've got to fit that one more thing into your day or that one to-do item on your list as a busy person, whatever, personal life, business life, career, doesn't matter. If you're busy and you don't have time to do this, then that really could cut into your margin of what you're intending to own that property for. So I think that's a really, really big piece. And I think in life, literally just recently my wife started trying this service with King Soopers and ordered groceries online, chose them, and said, okay, you can come by and pick them up. It's just a neat service that they have, and the cost is $4.99, but it saved an hour and a half of walking up and down aisles, putting it in the cart. Well, people will pay for convenience, and people will pay for things like what you've described here, where what if you could prevent this, or what if you could stop all of the research or the worry or the meeting with prospective tenants. So I think that's a huge, huge piece. And another thing that jumped out at me is just collecting rent. For me, I would think that that's probably one of the biggest things that you hear from your clients, right, your property owners, is, I don't want to be the guy that goes around and waits for the check personally or waiting for it in the mail, or what if it's late, then what do I do? So how does that process work, and what are your property owners appreciating with that service?
Well, one thing we've done in the past couple of years as an upgrade is we can accept multiple forms of payment. That's a huge benefit to everyone. So we literally have tenants we have an online portal for our tenants and owners, so we can receive money electronically. We can as well as submit money to the owners electronically, which is a huge convenience for everyone. We can even go as far as, we have tenants that come in with money orders. We have tenants that come in with cash.
Wow.
We have tenants that come in with checks. We have tenants that send checks in the mail. And we also offer another service where tenants can actually pay with credit card online. There is a fee for that, but some tenants want to use their United Miles card to pay for their rents and get their miles.
Yeah.
One other added feature that we have now is rather than dropping money orders off, I have a very good example. We have a property that's about 30 miles away from our home office, and the tenants there, every one of them, there's 5 different tenants, they pay by money order every single month. We now have a new service where they can bring a barcode into Ace check cashing service or Western Union like 7-Eleven and scan the barcode, and the money order comes directly to us rather than jumping in the car and coming down.
That's huge. And I think that for people that just don't have those other means, whether it's a checking account or wire or whatever the case is, credit card, that's the way that it is. And I would suspect that if that tenant is in one of your property owners' properties that you're managing, they appreciate that greatly, and that could be a selling point for the property owner to say, look, you get some of these tenants, then you make it hard for them to pay, and maybe they're moving on when they hear that someone else can. I think it sounds like a little thing, but it could end up being a big thing and a big competitive advantage, correct?
Most definitely. It could be from the owner getting their rents transferred to them in a timely manner to not, and them having to make their mortgage payment out of their own pocket or having their tenants pay it for them.
Yeah, and retaining tenants because they probably have been at another place in years past or recently, and they come here and they go, wait a minute, you mean you'll actually answer the phone and you actually let me do it this way or this way and a barcode at 7-Eleven? Now that's service, and I think that people recognize that.
Sure, I agree.
So what happens when when the issues come up with potential evictions or late payments and things like that? What is that scenario, and what is your support there for the property owner?
Well, we have a system in place where, we have to follow Colorado state law. So anytime a tenant's late, everything we do is in writing. So yeah, unfortunately, we have to go and post a notice on their door if they're late and let them know what their late fees are. And if they don't pay their rent within 3 days, then we have to start a formal eviction process. Within that eviction process, we have one of the top attorneys in the state. The biggest advantage of that is timeliness. We can be in court and have a writ within a 2 to 3 week period of time. So the owner's not sitting on the property if you do have that bad tenant. I want to revert back to one thing we take pride in is vetting our tenants. In the years that we've been around, 6 years that I've been here, we've evicted a total of 6 tenants. And
wow.
4 of those were actually our tenants. 2 were tenants we evicted for landlords that manage the property themselves. And
that's a super low percentage.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate, and I think that's why vetting our tenants good in the front end.
I would suspect that a property owner, when they think of this aspect, that might be one of the biggest drawbacks of picking up a rental property is all of these things that we're talking about here. And like you said, there's many times where your fee can be absorbed in some of the ways you restructure strategy that you set things up to where it really factors into their benefit over and above just some of these conveniences. But this collecting the rent and who as a property owner, who wants to go over and put a notice on a door because they might have to talk to the renter, and then that's uncomfortable, and then they're scratching their head with Colorado state law that you have to follow, and am I doing it right and at the right time? And I think that having that aspect and having the legal resources in your network is so helpful for someone to know, just handle it. I think that's a big relief.
Yeah, and it definitely takes the emotion out of it. I think that's where we really help, is it takes the emotion out.
So let's talk about the last point, which, again, is a big relief, I would suspect, is all maintenance calls. I mean, what property owner wants to get a call at 2 a.m. to say the toilet's overflowing?
Sure. Yeah, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit, too. So a new service that we provide effective May 1st is we actually have a 24-hour call center. So they actually report directly to me, but 24/7, they can get a hold of someone by phone. Not that they couldn't in the past, but now it actually goes to a call center where it's not going to be me hearing my voicemail ring at 2 in the morning and calling them back. It's actually going to be a call center that'll take care and handle their immediate issues.
That's, again, I would suspect that these nuances are very different than what you would find in a traditional, property management firm. I think that some of these things we're pointing out are really big differentiators and would make someone feel like, just please take it over, help me with that. And even if it is a cost, per se, but many times or sometimes I'm sure you could work it out to where you say, well, have you considered, and we should look at, and then being able to have that offset some, if not all, of the management fees, I think would be a nice touch. So if someone was interested in just having, I would think that you guys offer this too, where you would sit down with a property owner or talk by phone and say, give us an overview of your properties, and we can tell you, some of the options and some of the things to consider and how we could help you out. What is the best way that people should do that? Is that a service you offer? Is that in person? Is that a phone? How are some of the convenient ways that a property owner can learn if it would benefit them?
We definitely do a lot of the initial touch by phone. We're not out there knocking doors and things of that nature, so we do the initial touch by phone, really try and analyze their property. And, in all honesty, the first thing we do is look at the value and then go from there. We have multiple value-add services that all come with our package, but really starting there and then, the time savings. It even goes as far as our maintenance contractors. We have valuable relationships with all of our vendors that we hold them accountable, and we get good rates from them because we send them, obviously a fair amount of work. So we analyze with the owners and let them know, hey, you're going to pay $105 an hour for a plumber. We're going to pay $50. We're going to pass that on to you. We don't mark up any maintenance bills. That all comes within our service. There's no markup by Trinity Team whatsoever.
I think that's another really big point that we could probably spend a whole lot of time on, but we won't. But I think that having that preferred vetted vendor network, because like you said, who are you going to call? If you don't have a buddy that's a plumber and you're not going to impose on them, but you're going to go to, find some plumber, you're going to pay quite a bit of money. But yet if you're being referred to your network and paying a good amount less, that right there factors into defraying or offsetting part of your fee. So I think when those things come up, those are really massive points of consideration. So when someone wants to at least reach out and learn a little bit more by phone, what's the best way that they can reach your office to at least initiate a conversation?
We'd love to hear from anyone. My direct line is 303-539-5492.
And then, of course, we can direct them to your website, trinityrealestateco.com, and we'll make sure we have that on our show notes page. But I just encourage anyone who's a property owner, single property, multiple properties, but give a look. Have a second opinion and see what potentially could, save monetarily, save time-wise, save hassle. And I think that many times hearing some of these, value adds are just so spectacular to consider. So give it a go to reach out and see how Trinity Team could benefit you. And so, Eric and Brett, I just wanted to thank you for your time today. It was wonderful learning more about your business.
Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate your time.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.